Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Catholic Talk Show. Today, we're going to be talking about a recent approval by the Vatican of a Eucharistic miracle.
That's right. This Eucharistic miracle is kind of unique in the fact that the face of Christ himself appeared on a Eucharistic host. Let's look into it.
All right, man, hot off the press. I think this was recently reported, and it's pretty exciting, too. I've heard about it, but now that it's been made public, I think, more people are going to find out about it.
That's right. This is a really, really special Eucharistic miracle as far as I can tell. And this was just actually given the Vatican approval officially on May 31st. So this is our newest Eucharistic miracle. It's the first one during the pontificate of Leo XIV, although I'm sure the investigation goes back during the pontificate of Pope Francis. But, this one is really a particularly unique one, and they're calling it the miracle of Vilakkannur, right? And Vilakkannur is a small village in India near Tellicherry, which is also the same as Tellicherry. We get like the Tellicherry pepper, right? So in 2013, a priest was celebrating Mass, and the face of Christ appeared on the host. And now this Eucharistic miracle has been under investigation for 10 years and just recently received its Vatican approval. So that's why we're talking about it today. So we'll get into that. But first, Ryan, everyone watching, it doesn't take a miracle for you to just go and click the like and subscribe button. It's a real easy way for you to participate in the show and help us reach more people. When we look at our statistics, over 65% of everybody who watches isn't subscribed. So if that's you, shame on you. Click the subscribe button. And if you want to help support the show, you go to CatholicTalkShow.com/Patreon. See all the different ways that you're able to help support us and help us continue to make this show. That is a miracle. Your support has been miraculous, and we could not do this without you. So, Ryan, you and I have seen some Eucharistic miracles in person, and it's always a really unique and mystical experience. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've seen one in Mexico, and the face of Christ was supposed to be on it. I didn't see it, though. Like, I was like in the chapel. It's got like the documentation and everything. It was at some lady's house in Mexico. And I was in there. I was like, and then I saw the one in Italy when we were was
Portugal.
it Italy or was it
Portugal.
Spain?
It was in Portugal and Santorum.
Portugal. Yeah, that was really cool. I don't know. I mean, one of the things the bishop said in the statement was that every time the Eucharist is consecrated, it is a Eucharistic miracle.
That's a great point.
And it points to that fact, the fact that, God's body, blood, soul, and divinity is now just imposed and taken up into this host. And so, this is just a really neat thing. And, typically there's a lot of circumstances around it. I think maybe we'll get into some of those circumstances, but typically there's circumstances around it, like somebody doesn't believe, or it's dropped, or there's something irreverent going on, where this is a sign of, increased reverence in the Eucharist, and the devotion to the Blessed Sacrament is, enjoined to a lot more lively behavior, towards the Eucharist because of it. So, I think God uses these miracles to draw people closer to him, and for conversions too. I remember there's a scientific DVD I watched a while back, and a scientist, was able to get specimens from Eucharistic miracles where, they looked under a microscope, and it was a traumatized heart tissue that was still alive. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. And I'm just happy to talk about it because I have a very Eucharistic heart,
Yes,
for our Lord.
You do. So a lot of times when you think of miracles, you think these are things that happen in antiquity or at the very best in the Middle Ages when people were backwards and superstitious and they saw things in nature that weren't really there and, whatever. And that's an easy way for modern people to discount the intelligence and the true religious experience of people in times past. But this one happened in 2013. This is not something that happened in 1278 in Portugal or 1,000 years ago in Lanciano, Italy. This happened, 10 years ago, 2013, when you were,
when
10
Leo
years
was
younger
born.
than you. When Leo was born, right? He's as young as your son. This is only as old as your son. So I want to share a picture of it so you can get, so everyone can see what's going on here, because this is really an astounding miracle. Look at that. I'll zoom in if I can. Look at that.
Wow.
That is just absolutely
Yeah, and
mind-blowing.
that ain't no grilled cheese sandwich, man. That's the Eucharist right there.
Right?
You know?
And a lot of times you'll see these things where people say they saw an image of Mary, or they see Jesus on a piece of toast, or Mary in a stain from the water pipes, right? Because the human mind wants to make these connections. They want to see things. They want to see the man on the moon, right? That's just how the human mind works. But this one, I'm looking at this right now, and everyone, you can see this. And if you're listening, check it out on YouTube or on video to see this. But this is a face. I mean, clearly a face. That is not an accidental, was it a Rorschach test where we're like seeing things and trying to infer them? I mean, that is very clearly the face of a man that, to anybody who's ever seen an image of Christ, that looks like Christ.
Yeah.
So what happened with, go ahead, Ryan, please.
And the thing about it is too, with these miracles, is I don't know. I think the host itself, I think they call it the accidentals of, what it is. So the bread form of it, you would disintegrate at some point over time. A lot of these old ancient ones, they're still there. So they're upheld, not only by the miracle within the host and Christ being on it or blood being on it, but they've sustained, a long duration. And this host, as I remember reading, was held, by the diocese for 5 years. I mean, they wanted to make sure that, this wasn't some accident or, just random thing that just occurred that just so happened to be this. So, we'll probably talk about this a little bit more, but yeah, that 10 years that was spent, that's the church's wisdom right there.
It is. This is not something you don't want to jump to judgment on this and look like a fool or really discredit yourself religiously by approving something that shouldn't be approved. You'll see, there'll be a lot of times we'll see a Eucharistic miracle where they'll say it's bleeding, but then they'll run tests on it and they'll see that there's maybe a particular bacteria that gets intermingled with water, which creates like a red bloom, right? Yeah. And it'd be really easy to just say, oh, no, but the Eucharist is bleeding. And the church could go ahead and not let any tests be run on it, put it in a monstrance, and let all the revenue from the pilgrims come in. But the church has more integrity than that. And they're also more careful and true than that. So this particular Eucharistic miracle, I will give you the breakdown. So 12 years ago, 2013, during morning mass at Christ the King Church at Vilakkannur, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Father Thomas Pathakakal, again, Indian names, word places. If I don't get them right, I apologize. The parish vicar noticed a spot on the sacramental bread. The spot soon assumed the face of Jesus. He was taken by surprise and kept the host aside. He gave that then to the local ordinary, his bishop, and then the bishop kept it, made sure that, this, what the bishop, I heard the saying that no bishop ever wants the Pope or Jesus to appear in his diocese because it creates a lot of paperwork, right?
That's a lot of paperwork.
It's a lot of paperwork, right? So they want to be careful about this because what can happen is, you can have popular devotion get out of control, but then it to be false, but then you have to squash the hopes of these people who believe in it. And then they accuse you of covering up a fake miracle, or they accuse you of repressing a miracle. It's a big problem. So this has been undergoing study now for 10 years, and this just received that approval. So he noticed the spot on the host, and then as he elevated it, the human face that we see on it, that is clearly, to anybody with eyes to see Jesus, and it appeared radiant and luminous. And the priests, the parishioners, they all saw it. So the Diocese of Telecheri, or Telecheri, right, in the proper way, investigated it. It was then submitted to the Vatican Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith, right, which is the CDF, or the DDF, they call it now, but the Inquisition. So the Inquisition did a full study of it, made sure that there's no lies, there is no easily explainable scientific reason for this phenomenon. And this was just now approved, and it's creating a huge rebirth in the devotion to the Eucharist. And what a lot of people don't know is that so this is in the Syro-Malabar Church. And the Syro-Malabar Church is the St. Thomas Christians. They're Catholic, but they're an Eastern Syriac church within the Catholic Church, and they're the largest Eastern church, definitely largest Syriac church. And they've been going through a lot of liturgical problems of their own, right? Just as much as we have our liturgy wars here in the West over the Latin Mass and the Novus Ordo, they have the same things going on over there, to the point where, there's real bad dissension. So hopefully this Eucharist provides a sign of unity and something that helps people to focus on Christ in the Eucharist instead of the particularities of what's going on in their particular liturgical wars over there.
Do you think that's, obviously we don't know the mind of God, but do you think that's galvanized their right? And has there been any reports of that surfacing that's kind of brought union around this miracle?
So the Vatican official who gave the formal announcement, and let me pull up his name again. These names can be difficult for me. I have it right here, and then instead it wants to show me something else. Okay, here it is. So the Apostolic Nuncio to India and Nepal, Leopoldo Girelli, said, how can one ignore the tension? So he said this during the Mass, which also delivered the approval of this Eucharistic miracle. He said, how can one ignore the tensions that still divide the clergy and the faithful of the Syro-Malabar Church, are contradictory to the Eucharist, a sacrament of unity? Archbishop Girelli asked the ceremonies to install the Vatican recognized sacred host at Christ the King Church in Vilakkannur parish as a symbol of her unity and charity with all Christians, closely united with one another. So I would hope, now I'm nobody, but I would imagine that when you have something like this appearing in a situation like that Christ uses the Eucharist, the symbol and the sacrament of unity.
Yeah.
Unity, right? Where we become one with him and he becomes one with us sacramentally and mystically. Hopefully that provides that same salve and healing for the Syro-Malabar Church over there in India.
Yeah. It is. It's the sign of unity in the church. It's the source and summit of our faith,
Yeah.
And I think too, these liturgical things, and I see the need for beautiful liturgy, but when it gets into dissent and things like that, people say really awful things, and the separations are real,
Yeah, we have that going on here in the United States, in Charlotte, particularly right now, but it's going on all over the place. And I can understand the people who are like, why, you could have dancing dead chickens in diapers in a cathedral in Germany, but we want to receive communion on the tongue, and you treat us like we're third-class citizens. Like, it's hard to understand the wisdom sometimes of the bishops, but I think it was G.K. Chesterton. He was talking about obedience. He's like, it's easy to be obedient to someone you agree with because you're not really being obedient, you're in agreement. It's hard, and it's a true sign of obedience when you have to obey somebody who you think is lesser than you or wrong, right? So, as far as liturgical wars, true story, right? Is that what your kids say? They're like, bet, Dad. They're like, you're wrong, but I have to listen to you because you pay the bills. So
I wish they said that.
No, maybe I'll tell them they should do that. So yeah, let me share. I'm going to share another picture of this because this is really, I think, this is beautiful here. Yeah, here's another image of this miracle again in a beautiful monstrance. I don't think there's any explanation. I mean, I look at that. If that's real and I look at that, I'm like, is that painted on? Or, I mean, how can that be so clearly a face on the Eucharist? And it is. And, I'm positive the Vatican ruled out, hey, this has been painted on or there's been some chicanery going on here.
Yeah.
So I look at this and I say, there's no way that is so clear. And that happened 10 years ago. This is not some medieval, fantastical golden legend. I mean, this is on Facebook. This is on Instagram. Yeah. This is on TikTok, right? The videos of it. This is now. And to see something like that, to see how Christ is still so close to us in the Eucharist. And, we just got finished up with the Ascension and how Christ promised to be with us even till the end of the ages. And here we are 2,000 years later, and we can still see Christ with us so closely in the Eucharist. And for those of us who lack belief in that sometimes, you look at this and you say, how can you not see Christ, body, blood, soul, and divinity in the Eucharist? It's the source and the summit of our faith. And then when you think about how many Catholics don't believe in that essential doctrine, that essential Eucharistic doctrine, that Christ is truly present, God come to us in bread, that he may become one with us substantially, physically, to make up the very atoms and cells of our body. When you think about that, it amazes me that people don't want reverent liturgy because Christ is there. It amazes me that people will skip Mass. It amazes me that you don't crawl hands and knees to receive the Eucharist because you are communing with God himself. And when I see that just inflames those types of thoughts in my heart. And I hope that that's what that's doing for everyone listening and for all the people who that this Eucharistic miracle impacts.
Yeah. I think most Catholics that when you said don't believe, I think they're not aware. I certainly wasn't. I went to church. I was not aware until, I was properly catechized, if you will, or, told, sometimes when the student's ready, the teacher will appear, but, I don't remember ever knowing that growing up. Like, I think a lot of people just weren't taught that, because it's not like somebody's going to go to Catholic church saying, you know what? I don't believe. That's the one thing I don't believe. I think they're just not aware of it. Most of them.
Most of them. I think you're right. You're giving them the benefit of the doubt. And I think you're right. It's poor catechesis for sure.
Yeah. Cause it might be catechesis. It might just be dismissiveness of embracing your faith and trying to learn it and grow in it.
Well, I will tell you, everyone 70 years ago knew and believed that Christ was truly present in the Eucharist. Everyone knew it then. So what's changed?
Right.
I can only say that there's been a change in the reverent attitude around how we receive and celebrate the Eucharist.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, when there was the paten and you received it on the tongue and only the priest touched it, he never separated his fingers, and people knew. But now when the Eucharist is treated like, you go up there and you get 36 Eucharistic ministers, who I'm not trying to bag on Eucharistic ministers, but there's the sacrality and a disconnect. So when you're receiving it from a priest at the altar rail with a paten of gold underneath, something's going on. when you're just a poorly catechized, nobody from nowhere, and Mary Beth, the lady in the pantsuit who runs the parish, picnic, shows up and slaps it in your hand, and then you got one bread, one body blaring in the background. Ooh. It doesn't quite hit the same. I'm sorry.
It doesn't quite hit the same.
It doesn't. And I don't understand. I don't understand how those in charge don't see that there has been a precipitous decline in the belief of the true presence, and it directly relates and correlates and corresponds on a chart to the change in the liturgy and the sacramental reverence that we show in the Mass. So that's confounding to me. Again, I have to defer to the bishops. They know what they're doing. I don't. I'm barely a dude with a podcast, right? I got a half a podcast and I've got a crappy microphone. So I'm nobody. But to me, it just doesn't seem to make sense, Ryan.
Yeah. No, it's kind of like I was thinking about watching a baseball game, and the batter walks up to the plate and it's like, man, when they play like the walkout music, dun, dun, and then they're getting into it, like, it's like, hey, this dude's coming up the plate. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And like, let's go, you get excited. It's the same thing with the reverence of Christ. It's like, if we act reverent around what should be revered as holy, as the holiest thing in the world,
the source and summit of our faith.
He is the world. I don't know. Right. I don't want to get into deep theology right now, but he is literally everything, and without it, we have nothing. We don't. And so, do we in leadership, in liturgy, is this something that we would like for everybody to know, and how do we do that? And I think the liturgy provides for that. I just think it's just been, forgotten. People think of social justice and all these other things that are good.
Very good.
But they signal that over Christ in this host, this amazing miracle that's happened.
I believe that Sikhism, wonderful people with great ethics. I believe Muslims, wonderful people with great ethics. Shintos and Confucians, all of these people, definitely their religion says we are going to do good to other people.
Yeah.
But to hell with that, right? Because where does that get you? Nowhere, unless Christ himself saves you and can get you into heaven. Other than that, it's just being nice. And that's good in and of itself. But without an objective reality, an objective creator, and an orientation and ontological purpose for that goodness, well, that's just a preference, right? Yeah, that's just a preference on how to treat people. So without the Eucharist, we have something unique, and that separates. Well, hey, Mass is a good place to talk about social justice. Sure. Mass is a good place to talk about prayer. Sure. Mass is a good place to talk about raising your children right. Absolutely. But central to the Mass is the sacrifice, the bloody representation of Christ's salvific sacrifice on Calvary. And when we take the Mass and remove the focus from that portion of it, and we make it really either a Bible study or a social gathering, it doesn't work like it's intended to, Ryan.
Yeah. It's like
it works. It doesn't have the impact that it should.
And like doing good to other people, and look at Mormonism. Mormon people,
great people,
very virtuous. In many cases, more virtuous than many Catholics.
Sure, absolutely.
But they have this like theology that's. But like with us, like we have this, we have Christ grafted into our heart in baptism. Like our theology is incarnational. It's sharing so deeply, intimately with your God, where he actually lives inside of you through this sacrament, right? So you're ingesting his body and his blood, and it's circulating in your veins, right? In your soul. And so being good to people is being Christ to people. Like, it's like, what would Jesus do? But no, with us, it's like, who would Jesus be with everything that he's created inside of me as who I am, physical, spiritual, mental, everything, and like that's just like that's it's hard to understand, but it's also the driving force of our faith, right? Is
Yeah.
that we receive him, he acts with us, in us, that's pretty awesome, you know?
I agree, Ryan. And I'll put it like this too. Does God need the Eucharist? No. Does God need to be worshipped? No. Does God need us to show up to Mass on Sunday? No. God doesn't need anything. God needs nothing. We need this. We are the beneficiaries of these things. The sacraments are not a binding magic spell that we can hold over God and trick our way into heaven. God provides true and material and physical, tangible ways that we can sacramentalize the grace that he wants to give us, where
Yeah.
he can represent his sacrifice for us and we can commune with him physically, or we can be clean through confession or baptism, or spiritually unionized through matrimony, or substantially marked as different through the holy orders, right? Or receive healing through the sacrament of extreme unction, right? The sacraments are for us. The Sabbath was not made, man was not made for the Sabbath. Sabbath was made for man. And the same thing applies for the sacraments and for the Eucharist. So when we look at the Eucharist and say, God gave us this and Christ provided this through his sacrifice, and then we say, well, thanks for that. Cool. That's nice. I'm going to go put that up on the fridge, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the same thing that we're doing with this when we have irreverent liturgies and when we don't believe in the Eucharist. And again, I've said this for years now, Ryan. I really think, look, it would be a wonderful thing to take a look at the Nicene Creed, bring together the bishops of the East and put in there. And I believe in the true presence of Christ, body, blood, soul, and divinity in the Eucharist, and add that clause to the creed because I think it's that fundamental to our faith.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd stamp that.
Yep.
So going back to this miracle, before, let's look at like a before and after. So as this process has been underway for 10, 12 years, whatever it is, is this, is Christ himself in the Eucharist and this image of him, is it being like sent away and people are looking at it, or is it being reverenced in the diocese, or is it being withheld from being revered in the societies that that are the Syro Malabar, right? How does that work? Do you know how that works?
So at a large sense, so when this miracle happened, the bishop had that retained within the the deanery, right? Because you don't want to leave like something like this out on display and then find out it's fake later, right? So you take it away, and if you see if the graces can blossom around it, while you are also examining it physically and scientifically. So after they do the whole process, the local ordinary, the bishop, will do this. Then the bishop will send it off to Rome, to the Vatican, and there it'll go to the Inquisition, the DDF, right? And they'll examine it. They'll examine the priest. They'll examine the situation around it. They'll look at the advice of medical experts. When all of that goes through, then it goes through to the Pope to give the final approval of this CDF, DDF approval. And now that the Apostolic Nuncio to India and Nepal goes back and says, this is now approved for public veneration. And they've made a beautiful, huge monstrance, and they put it on display in this church in Tellicherry, India. And now it is a place of pilgrimage.
Yeah.
They had a huge mass, a huge ceremony for this enthronement of this Eucharistic miracle there. And now people from all around the world will travel to this, just like Ryan, you and I have traveled to Portugal and Spain and Italy and Mexico to see these different Eucharistic miracles. So
just think about
in a
how
large
many
sense, that's
people,
how it goes.
How many people will, see this miracle, especially now it's been pronounced and now the bishop is, having the, the shrine or whatever built. they're drawing people there. It's time to bring people, there. So I can imagine the graces that will come from that. I mean, look at us. We're going to Portugal. We're going to see, we're all excited about going to see Eucharistic Miracles in Europe, so I can imagine, especially with India, they've got like 1.5 billion people, and, Hinduism, Muslims, all these people, and, having a miracle there be pretty solid,
Very powerful. And they have one of the most ancient Christian communities in the world there. Mm-hmm. It goes back to St. Thomas himself. And that's why they're called the St. Thomas Christians. I mean, they have a unique ancient Christian tradition along the western seaboard of India towards the south, from Goa down across Mumbai to Chennai, and more below Mumbai, really. Okay. Along,
I just like saying Mumbai.
Mumbai is a fun word.
Mumbai.
This is let's see, I'm trying to find the name of the church where it's at. It is in Christ the King Church in Vilakkannur, which is in a rural parish in the Talasheri Diocese of India. So now, Ryan, you said that we've traveled all around the world, and I want to bring this up real quick. I'm going to share this screen. I made this little map here, right? And this is just showing some of the more recent, or not more recent, but some of the most well-known Eucharistic miracles, right? So you talked about Mexico. This one was a really famous one. It's, again, I believe it's called Tixla, where the host began to bleed, and they did examinations of it, and they found that it was from living heart tissue.
Yeah. I saw that one in the DVD. Yeah. Forget the name of it.
Tixla, I believe. So this is the one in Santarém, Portugal, that we saw, where a woman was basically trying to curse her husband and stole the Eucharist. And then the angels came to basically bring the Eucharist back, and she had the conversion, and it's still there, which, 700 years later, like you said, Ryan, I mean, bread goes bad in my house, it seems like in 6 or 7 days at the very best. And that's when you took that Wonder Bread with 1 million pounds of preservatives in it, which my wife will let us buy because she's conscious like that. So 700 years for a bread made with just wheat and water. Look, that defies just anything, right? We all know about the one in Lanciano, which is probably the first and the most famous Eucharistic miracle, where a Basilian priest doubted the true presence, and then at the elevation during the Mass, it turned into heart tissue. And there's a bunch of other ones, but I also want to bring up this because this was kind of near and dear to Carlo Acutis, Blessed Carlo Acutis. That was one of the things that they pointed to his life of heroic virtue, is that he created a website of Eucharistic miracles. And that website is still around. And I'll put the link. It's Miraculi Eucharistici. Again, I'm an American. Forgive my pronunciations. But I'll put the link to that. And here's all of them. It shows, let's see, for Italy, right? All over the place.
Lots of them.
Or
is that his website?
This is where his website has grown into. But this is the same one that, a guy who's about to become a saint created this website. And this was one of his, in his short life, probably his great work. And it's pretty cool that we're talking about a Eucharistic miracle here, and that we can continue to show the work that Blessed Carlo did, which, by the way, Ryan, when you didn't go on that trip because of, you're taking care of your family after Jen's passing, but Thad went, and we saw his body in Assisi. And, when I think of Carlo Acutis, I think, he's a young guy, he's a saint, and he's wearing the Nikes and whatever. But then you see his body there. Blessed Carlo Acutis was a big dude. Like, really? He was big, dude. Yeah. Like, was he 15 years old, 14?
Yeah. Huh.
Dude was big. He was a bruiser.
Wow.
Yeah, I was
sure they didn't puff his body up?
No, man. Brother was built different, man. He was a big guy. which that was a surprising thing to me. But
I saw that movie about him when it came out with the kids. It was really good. Really good.
So he will be canonized here. But yeah, this is the website that Carlo Acutis built.
Oh yeah, man. Well, it used to be kind of, because he died a long time ago. It looked like a website from back then. I think somebody went in there and touched it up a little bit.
They're let's see. I mean, it says it's probably been touched up a little bit, right?
Yeah. You could get in one of those time machines, and look at it. I think I did too.
Yeah.
He did a good job with it,
Well, I think the UI UX was what it was for the time, but the research that went into it was
amazing.
Was the thing.
And the first of its kind.
Absolutely.
The first of its kind.
Yeah. So anyway, just wanted to talk about that Eucharistic miracle today because I think it was such a unique and different Eucharistic miracle. A lot of times you'll see them, they'll turn into heart tissue. You'll see them bleeding. They all have, the AB blood, associated with them, the same as on the shroud. And a lot of times they're very physical. They're very visceral, bloody, right? This one being so different, being this incredibly clear image of Christ. I almost feel like Jesus is saying, look, guys, if it hasn't been clear enough to you, I've been sending heart tissue. I've been sending blood. They're all the same blood. Like, guys, you stiff-necked people, what do I have to do? Put my face on it? Fine. Here you go. Right? And at this one,
I'll put my face on it.
There you go. There you go.
There you go. You know what?
Will you stop singing one bread, one body now? Are we good?
I wonder what the research turned up, because if you think about the holy image of Our Lady of Guadalupe, how there's really no paint standing on fiber, pretty amazing scientific anomalies going on with that. Obviously, that's a major part of our faith, but in the Eucharist, I wonder what they look on a proton microscope or whatever those things are. How that it's not ink, can't be ink, right? Can't be a substance that would decay, leavened bread.
I think that it would be pretty easily found out if it was just paint, if it was just dye, if it was just whatever, right?
Well, it's been approved, but I'm waiting to hear some of these details. It'd be nice.
It also looks very much like the image on the Shroud of Turin. I mean, just physically, the image looks very similar. And, this is also the first Eucharistic miracle in India, which has a huge and growing population of Christians and specifically Catholics. Hopefully this can be India's Guadalupe moment, right? This could be
he looks kind of Indian. Maybe.
A little bit. I don't know. I mean, Our Lady of Guadalupe looked like a Aztec girl when she showed up, right?
Tenochtitlan woman. Yeah. Remember that? Everybody learned Tenochtitlan in elementary school in my age group.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember how it was pronounced.
Did you make it out of did you make it make one?
Oh no.
What village? Yeah. That must have been a Florida thing.
Oh yeah, no, I did a village of colonial Boston. That was my one that I had.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. Made out of toothpicks and even had a little working gallows. It was great. I still have it in my office at the office. But check this Eucharistic miracle out. And I'll put in a link to the website made by Carlo Acutis so you can look more into Eucharistic miracles. But I also want to tell you, it doesn't take a miracle to get the /1 prayer app in the world, and that is Hallow. In fact, it's rather unmiraculous, or maybe you could say it's miraculous because it's so great because it's free. You can go to catholictalkshow.com/Hallow, and you can download the /1 Catholic prayer app in the world, and see why so many people are using this and really spiritually benefiting from it. It's got your daily Bible readings. It has your rosary. It has your night prayers examined, sacred music, chant. It has examinations of conscience. It has novenas. It has music for studying, music for sleeping. It has sleep stories. It has podcasts. It has the Bible in the year. It has the Catechism in the year. It has Bishop Barron, Matt Fradd, Sister Miriam,
Kid stuff.
Father Schmitz, kid stuff, prayer groups. It has everything you need in one great, beautifully designed app that you can use
For free.
Really for free. Free, Ryan. I mean,
Free.
free?
Free. Free.
How free is free? Very free.
That's right. And you know what?
So-
we got it. We called Hallow and said, give it to the talk show audience.
Give it to the
for free."
people, guys. Come on.
They're like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, for people,
No, man, I love that. My daughter
legitimately
loves
use it
that.
every day. Which one?
Yeah. She just loves the kid stories. I think we're kind of out of them. I got to look for some more in there. It's a big old app, you know?
There's, look, this is all the things that I'm just looking at. Meditate, sleep, music, daily prayers, rosaries, chants, scripture,
Chants
Bible
are
of the year,
good.
Catechism of the year, Jonathan Rumi,
Yeah.
Mark Wahlberg, Sister Miriam, Bishop Barron, Mike Schmidt, Father Mike Schmitz, Jeff Cavins, nuns and sisters, priests and bishops, students, saints, sacraments, mental health, stories, novenas, miracles, quick prayers, audiobooks, athletes, litanies, chaplets, consecrations, playlists, pro-life prayer, Station at the Cross, kids and family, Espanol, community challenge. Like,
And the list
if you
goes
can't-
on. You're not even
if you
done.
can't find something in here to use, I don't think you want to be Catholic, right? I think that's not for you. So again, go to CatholicTalkShow.com/Hallow, download the app, try it out. Make sure you let them know that you heard about it from the Catholic Talk Show. Now, if you're still listening, I want to make sure you just take 1 second to click the like and subscribe button. It's a really great way that you can help participate in the Catholic Talk Show ministry that Ryan and I have been doing here for the last 6 years, right?
Yeah.
Halfway back until this miracle occurred. Which the Vatican's still investigating our show, and I don't think they're going to find it miraculous. But
No.
click the like and subscribe button. It helps us out a lot. And if you want to support us, we really need your support. This has been a rough year for us here at the Catholic Talk Show, and having your support means everything, and allows us to continue to make this show, from the cost of editing, cameras, and equipment, just to getting these episodes out every week, and to allow for us to have the time to even do it. We cannot do it without you. So if you go to CatholicTalkShow.com/Patreon, and you can join a different tier there and make a small donation that really helps us continue. It doesn't have to be anything big. We don't need $10 million. We don't need $1,000. We don't need $100. $100 is great if you have it. But if you have $5, we'd be incredibly grateful for it. So go and find a tier that works for you. And we have all kinds of great gifts like coffee mugs, hats, hoodies, rosaries, chaplets, and stuff that we send in our gratitude. And it's a great way for you to participate. And we appreciate all your prayers. And Ryan, I know that our listeners have really been carrying you in their prayers recently too. So
Yeah, and I really appreciate it. I think I'm at a place now where I'm back. I thought I was back, but like just all the emails and the support that I'm getting, people just texting me online or messaging or whatever on the social media, like all that is just, it's overwhelming, but I know it's been holding me up, and I'm doing good. It's 2 months, almost 2 months. And I just saw my counselor today, and she's like, "You're doing great." So I'm feeling good. I'm loving coming back. I can't wait to, start talking about getting the studio back up and running and all that. One step at a time. But yeah, I feel great, and I'm ready.
Yeah,
Yep.
You look great. Sounds great. And, glad to see that you're healing and continuing to, hold Jen close, and through all the experiences you're having around that. So I know that that's special for people to see, and they also have a ton of admiration, and you're an example for them of how to handle grief like a man, and how to be joyful even in the hardest circumstances. So it's wonderful to be your brother through all this.
Thanks, man.
All right. Well, Ryan, you want to close us out?
Yeah. With what?
Whatever you want. You want to say see you next week? Do you want to tell them to go watch a different podcast? You want
I
to
feel like I'm like back in the driver's seat on the talk
You are.
show now.
Look, man, it's like you never left. It's like a bicycle, Ryan.
Yeah.
You never forget. You never
I can't
forget
give them
how.
a blessing from the church, but
No.
How about we just definitely say I'll be back next week, and I'm excited to be back, and I love all you guys and the support you've given me, and gosh, we just keep going. We just keep going forward. It's the inertia of God in the world that we're all experiencing. So Amen. God bless you all.
See you next week.
I said that.